Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pharmaceutical Soccer. I am here. I don't know how specifically excited I am to be here at the current moment. But no matter what, I am here with Clay Trainum and Valeria Shabilla. So that's always a fun time. Get to hear about weekends and all of that fun type of stuff. And try to delay Nashville soccer talk as much as we possibly can, because nobody really wants to talk about that. What's up? Who wants to talk about their everybody's looking tired today. What's going on?
Well, I survived a hurricane last week, so I think that's a good place to start.
We were worried about that. It was brought up. I don't know if you listened last week, but we did say that we were worried, but we knew you were good.
So the hurricane that wasn't supposed to hit Houston, or if it was going to hit Texas, was going to hit Corpus Christi, which is like 200 some odd miles away from Houston. Hit Houston pretty much head on while I was there, which was fun. So fortunately, didn't lose too much power. It was kind of on and off, but it was just a weird time. And the city of Houston is still without power, huge swaths. I think over 1 million people still don't have power down there. They have I'll let you draw your own conclusions about Texas's power grid, but you can look into that and maybe look into the politics around it and figure out why they don't have power after a week in one of the largest cities in the country. But I'll leave it at that. Then I went over to visit friend of the show and very close friend of me, Clyde Verdon, in New Orleans.
Clyde, yay.
Had a great time in New Orleans for about a day and got back up to Nashville. So attending to some family stuff in Houston has been publicized before, but uh, it was a decent weekend watching the soccer. And as long as and basically every team that I was rooting for lost watching the soccer, but it wasn't totally unexpected, I guess, on the basis of where they were playing and what was going on. So other than that, not too bad. Not too bad. Made a nice dinner last night to celebrate being back. So you know, living it up. Chef Clay in the house.
Hey, hey, hey. Clay has cooked for me once. I mean, he grilled for me once. It was pretty good. It's pretty good. I was also traveling. So I just got back to town Sunday night. Actually, Sunday. I was in Michigan as we talked about last week, but then before heading back home, I had a little bachelor party activity down in Georgia for a little bit, in Blue Ridge, which is a beautiful town. I've been there a couple times now. LJ Blue Ridge area. Got to celebrate some people and maybe drink a couple beers in their honor, and then back home now. Watched a bunch of soccer on Sunday, and I went to a place that is a chain restaurant and ate dinner there. And it surprised me because it was good. And I'm not going to mention that chain, but I'm going to email them later to see if they want to sponsor the pod. So that's where I'm at. How's everybody else
But
doing?
I want to know the chain. You didn't bring this up on the off time.
I'll have to text it to you.
What does it rhyme with?
uh, I don't know. I can't do this on the spot. I'm having a rough
Did
day.
Jack Mayer meet me there after the bus trip?
No,
Okay, got it. All right, now
no.
I'm just narrowing down what chain
No.
restaurant it could be.
No, but in all reality, I mean, it's been like a very long trip for me, very long time away from home. I don't travel again for another 6, 7 weeks. So, we're gonna try to enjoy time at home and do the things I've been meaning to do this whole time, including more NSC coverage, which you've already been seeing a good bit of it anyway. But yeah, getting back into the swing of things, even though Nashville SC has 4 losses in a row, which is probably why the mood is low down today.
Well, the mood is probably down a little bit because of the fact that I don't know. Your jabronis could have come and visited DC and had a great time with me watching that match in person, but you decided not to. It's unfortunate. It's okay. I still love the both of you. But I still had a good time. Shout out to Paige, friend of the pod, for making the trip. That was a lot of fun. DC does always have one of the best tailgating experiences in the league. It's super cool. If you've never been to a Screaming Eagles DC tailgate, it is fantastic. So next year, you should make the trip. It's a lot of fun. It's always interesting how like apathetic these tailgates are. There's never any blood or competition because it's always we're going to lose. No, we're going to lose. No, we're going to lose. Just back and forth. And everybody just knows their team is going to lose, even if they win. So it's always a good time. Then, of course, making the giant climb up the stands to section 112. Always a trip. Mount Rooney is what it's nicknamed, by the way. Did not realize it was nicknamed Mount Rooney, but it is nicknamed Mount Rooney.
It's a nightmare climb.
It's the worst.
Although it's better if you go the back way and then go up. If you go straight down from the bottom, it is one of the worst like sets of stairs like I've ever. My bachelor party was in DC last year, and I could not believe how much work it was to get to the visitor section.
It's wild. But yeah, it was a good time. But you can tell, I mean, even just from our voices specifically, just outlook on things, where we're at, we're all just kind of tired. You know what I mean? It's summer. I feel like summer is really starting to hit us here, not having really any sort of exciting soccer to talk about besides not our team soccer is probably really tough as well. I mean, it's hard to get excited about this, isn't it? Like it's hard to have any sort of excitement really. Like we talked about, BJ, joining next week, but we're kind of in that limbo until I don't know, Leagues Cup.
Well, I think that's part of, I don't know necessarily what are the reasons for why they announced it the way they did, but announcing BJ Callahan had this buzz going around Nashville fans and media and everybody alike of wow, you have a national team assistant coming into Nashville and coaching, and then now you do this period of waiting. And I'm not suggesting that the players aren't professionals or aren't keeping up with that by any means, but I mean, you're a human being. You know, you got a new boss coming in, and currently what you're doing is just kind of waiting until that new boss comes in. And to be fair, the schedule wasn't helpful for Nashville SC either. They were playing, three of the four teams are really, really good teams in fine form. DC was whatever. But I think when you look at it, you're seeing maybe the ramifications of knowing something is going to change and knowing what you have right now is not permanent, and maybe for the fans and a little bit for the players alike, it just seems like let's get done with it. Let's get to the next phase, because the next phase is a lot more exciting, to be fair.
I mean, I think I said it a few weeks ago after a couple of those games. It just has a lot of substitute teacher vibes. Like it's hard for anybody to now, given as an Everton fan, I've dealt with this. Like I've watched teams go through these sorts of periods with caretaker managers and things like that more than most in the last few years. And you get an initial push. And then after that, it kind of goes away because everyone knows that that's not the guy. You're not being accountable. And the one thing that I'm left this now, I do think moving on from Gary Smith is the right decision, and it totally made sense. I questioned the timing whenever it happened. I questioned it on here. What I will say is, if you're telling us that you're in win now mode, which is what they said, and you understand that in a league like MLS, you can make a turn at any point during the season and get into playoffs and sort of move through and kind of make this big jump. I'm left wondering why you would be in substitute teacher mode for over 2 months. And that's the part that doesn't sit right with me, because I don't think that you can look back at these last however many matches and think that it would have been reasonably much different if Gary Smith were in charge, because essentially the difference is the people that are on the pitch. I understand that. I don't think that they would line up the same way. I don't think the younger guys would get the shot that they've gotten. I think that it's a fair point. But my point is that if you can't tell us it's win now mode and then put off hiring the coach for this long, and I understand they got the guy they wanted, and I get that, but you only have a window for so long. And if you're just going to give up the season, why not give it up before? Like, why not do that at the end of last season? Like, it just seems like a real half in, half out sort of approach to this middle part of the year. And it's cost Nashville pretty dearly over the last couple of months, not having like a firm idea on who's in charge and when they're going to be taking charge in all of this.
I do feel like Clay has used the I'm used to this since I'm an Everton fan more lately in the past few months than
It's the
the
most that NSC's ever looked like Everton.
That's not a good thing, folks.
No, it is not.
No, and no, and I agree. I think it's just like if you think the fans are having the same mentality of like, well, we're in this, the players are obviously going to be in this. Like it's kind of conjunctive. Like it's just it's a weird time. I don't
Uh,
know.
With all that said, I don't want these last few games to um, be the only thing that we remember of the Rumbo Muntali era, if we would, because I think what Clay said earlier about giving young players chance. We saw three players have their MLS debut under Rumbo Montali, one of which is an academy product, the first ever academy product that happened on Saturday against DC. Isaiah Jones made his debut, his MLS debut for Nashville SC, and his Nashville SC debut as well. He ended up playing about 10 minutes total, but he's the first ever academy product to play for Nashville SC. And I don't think that I think we need to make a bigger deal out of this. I think it's a really, really cool thing to have, especially for that family who have produced players for Nashville SC and other MLS teams. And then have a really, really good story that is, essentially a local kid who went through the NSC Academy, developed through the NSC Academy, played for Huntsville, and now he plays for Nashville SC. That in itself is a win during the Rumbo Mentali era, and that alone, I just don't know if we would have been able to see under Gary Smith.
The only pushback I would give is over the drafted guys making their debut because Nashville has if they've the difference between Ajago and Skinner is that they've gone through the process of going through Huntsville to make it, which we hadn't seen. But we've seen guys come in and halfway through the year, part of the year, become a bigger part of the squad. That's what happened with Jack Mayer. That's what happened with Alistair. So that has happened before.
Yeah, but you're
But the
talking
way it
about 20, 22, 23 year olds. We're talking about 18,
No,
17.
that's what I was just saying. I was just meaning the younger player, people making their debuts. Two of those three debuts were guys that when they got through the draft. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah,
Not
but
through
Ajago wasn't
through the
drafted.
draft and through a signing. You know what I mean? Through the
Sorry, yeah.
college, through the
Yeah, yeah.
college system.
Okay.
So that's the only distinction I would make. But I do think that we might not have seen Ajago come in and play as well as he has uh, under Gary Smith. I think that that's a fair point. And I do and I'm not saying that they didn't need to get rid of Gary Smith. Just to clarify, I just think that having some form of plan that wasn't so, we'll see what happens at the end of July, which is
Right.
essentially the entire plan. I don't like that. You're giving up months of the season in a league that you can still, compete in.
But we can't compete with the last place team in the league. And we're going to talk about that here next, right? On Pharmaceutical Soccer. And we are back right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer at Pharma Soccer on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can also follow us on Patreon. It is $5 a month to help support the show. It helps us keep doing what we do. As Valer says it every single week. I really like how he says it. $5 may not be a lot to you a month, but it definitely means a lot to us on the show. It really does do so much. So if you're looking to join the Patreon, go look at that, Pharma Soccer. You can also look at our website at pharmasoccer.com where we need to update it, but we do have a website and you can get all the information and stuff that you need there as well. Look, we are going to talk about Nashville losing to the last place team in the East, losing 2-1 to DC United. Nashville getting the first goal of the match from Tyler Boyd, but then DC's right back scoring 2 goals against us for them to then win the game, and then we had no offensive push at the end to help complete the victory. So I don't want to talk about this. Do you guys want to talk about this?
I do. I want to talk about a couple things from it. First off, let's just start with the Boyd goal. I think the Boyd goal is actually pretty interesting on the surface. It's a goal that comes off a throw in, which was kind of a staple of Nashville's first few years in MLS, with Dave Romney providing throw ins. I think there was one year where his throw ins led directly to 4 or 5 goals. Like, is pretty It was a pretty huge part of Nashville's offensive tactics was Romney doing
Shout,
throw-ins.
shout out Robert Castellanos. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
one game, one goal from a throw
Hey,
in.
he's a
Never saw
legend,
the
just like
Nashville
Jordan
again.
Dunston.
Yes.
And but that so they get a goal off a throw in. Not only that, they get a goal off a throw in that comes from a nodded header at the near post, which is what Nashville tries to do on every single corner, it seems like, and they actually came off. So shout out to Teal Bunbury.
Yeah, and it
Unre-
was Teal Bunbury that did it. Like
yeah,
that's a lot.
horrific defending from DC, to be fair, on the goal. But they got a goal off a throw in. That's basically a set piece. If they can get goals from these unexpected places, that'll make vibes raise up a little bit on scoring. But unfortunately, it's also another game without really like a real true open play goal.
And I do think that is one of the strengths of Teal Bunbury's set pieces, actually, and the way he positions himself. Because in open play, not to be dismissive of anything he does in open play, but he seems to be a step behind the other attackers when it comes to progressing the ball and being on the ball. Now, off the ball is where he thrives, and set pieces where he thrives, I think. Or even when you talk about like goal kicks, which I guess they are set pieces in a way. So like stuff like that, I think is where he is at his best. To where in open play, I do think he often looks just a little bit behind the Sam Surges and Tyler Boyds of the world.
And I think you can really see that when Ajago comes in because you now given Ajago has mostly come in chasing a game,
Right.
unfortunately. But you see whenever he comes in, he's trying to get around guys. If he's winning the ball, he's trying to turn and go,
Mhm.
which doesn't always come off, but it's come off more than it has any business of coming off. And that's just not something
And he
that
takes more chances, right?
yeah,
Ajago just takes
absolutely.
more chances. I mean, there's confidence, there's hunger there. Teal Bunbury had a chance where it was 2-on-2, I believe, Nashville SC, and had a chance to take a shot. It wasn't a perfect shot, and it wasn't an easy chance by any means, but he passed it backwards. And this was back when Nashville was still up, and I remember looking at that like you just took a chance that was, maybe half a chance, maybe could have gotten a corner out of it, and passed it backwards, and now DC gets to counter. And I think that was one of those things that kept happening to where Nashville just weren't able to capitalize on anything they were creating.
Yeah, I was gonna say that leads to one of my primary takeaways watching that game, which was, and unfortunately, it's been a primary takeaway watching Nashville a lot over the last few years, is that Nashville just doesn't, they don't have a lot of courage or confidence when they've got the ball at their feet. They try to get their feet right. They don't take shots from distance typically. And that's one of the biggest things. I know we talk about Randall Leal pretty often on here, but that's one of the biggest things that is missing with Randall Leal not playing much of the last 2 years is because Randall Leal may send it into row Z, but he also might find the corner or might cause the keeper to make a save that comes out and gets tapped in for another goal. We've seen that a bunch of times too. And unfortunately, watching these Nashville games, the only real person taking regular shots outside the box is Hani Mukhtar. And that's kind of predictable. Of course, Hani Mukhtar is going to try stuff outside the box. And so, one of the biggest things that stuck out to me watching the game was when Drew Yearwood kind of let one off from about 20 or so and it hit the post. And it's like, we don't see that enough because if that happens, like whether it's saved, whether it goes in the net, of course, whether it misses completely, it still opens up room for everyone else. And it still makes people respect that that can be part of your game. And I can't tell you how many times I sit there and watch, especially when Nashville's chasing a goal and someone's busy trying to get their feet right or doesn't want to take a shot that they have a lane for. Like it is the most infuriating, frustrating thing to watch because at a certain point, you just have to take a shot. If you wait for the shot to be there, it's not going to be there anymore. And goalkeepers and defenders in MLS aren't good enough to just bank that it's not going to go in and you shouldn't try. Because we see these mistakes all the time, especially on the Nashville side. But we see these mistakes all the time that lead to goals, and you have to force the defense to make some of these mistakes. There are goals there to be had.
Well, I mean, you were talking about confidence, even like with Randall Leal. Like, even normally, if Nashville just has one player on the field that does have that kind of confidence, it does reflect in the entire team. But Hani doesn't even have that confidence right now. There's a couple shots that Hani took. You could tell even when he takes those long shots right now. There was a couple that he took
The
against
header.
DC that he just didn't have any like had, but then he had one open chance and he made the pass instead of taking the shot. Like you could tell this team just seems like there's just a lack of something that's not there.
I think
But
it's
that's
a lack of just a lack of creative um a lack of creation of enough chances to produce something. Any given moment, any given game, Nashville SC is getting one, two, at most three actually good chances in any given game. Don't tell me about possession. I don't care about that. Yes, they have more of the ball. Congratulations. They're not doing much with it. And when you create one, two or three chances a game, and you only finish one of them, well, that's what happens. I mean, you need to create more chances in order to score more goals.
that header from Hani. It was probably Shaq Moore's best cross in like 2 months, and Hani puts it right at the goalkeeper, and that's one of those, and we see it with Surge sometimes. That's one of those where if it's a confident striker or a confident scorer in that it's somehow finding the back of the net. There's no way to describe that like statistically, but if Hani was 2022 Hani or 2021 or 2022 Hani, it's probably going in the back of the net. It's finding a way. And there was another one with Surge where, I mean, to be fair, goalkeeper makes a point blank save, but he literally just hits it right at the body of the keeper. And it's these situations where if Nashville's doing well, both of those end up in the back of the net. You know what I
And
mean?
I know you talked about like confidence in terms of taking shots, right? Or scoring. But I think there's something in the confidence of trusting your teammates as well. And I think I think one thing that makes this Nashville team what they are is that they all play well with each other, right? It's always been the team that is here's the locker room, here we are all together, united. It doesn't matter. We're all kind of the same team. Doesn't matter who's coming in to start or come off the bench. We're all a team. That's one thing that we talked about often with Nashville SC. And I don't think that's completely lost by any means. I do think it has taken a step back because I think when you talk about confidence, it's not just confident in yourself that you can make the pass. It's confident in your teammate that they can go on and make the right pass after you. And when you look at a team like Nashville SC, where they are now going into a different playing style than what they were used to under Gary Smith, they have more of the ball. They are starting from the back. They are attempting to play more passes in between the midfielders. Those passes are when they are played with some sort of nervousness and shakiness. And a lot of that has to do with the opponent obviously pressing and trying to make that happen. But also a lot of it is being done when you look at it as a complete team passing the ball to each other. It just doesn't look organized. It doesn't look like something that they are comfortable doing. And I've talked about this since last year because Nashville SC decided to play from the back last year a few times and ended up in a very, very bad situations. And then they would just boot it forward, and that's that. And I think that's part of what BJ Callahan needs to bring to this team is that confidence of trusting your teammate, giving them the right pass, and hoping they would do the right thing.
And I think it goes even deeper than that. Now I'm going to be positive about the defense in a minute, or about a particular defender in a minute, but I think it also is the confidence in the team being able to defend well that has been lost. And I think that's evident by seeing where players end up on the pitch. And I can't tell you how many times I looked up there and saw Sam Surge sitting on the edge of the 18 or near the 18 defensively. And that's because he doesn't have the confidence that he can't get the pass up to him, but he also doesn't have the confidence that the defense is going to win the ball and get it moving forward. And I think that that is a really, really worrisome thing because that goes right into the offense. And in games where Nashville has played bad historically or not been in poor form, it's games where you see Hani Mukhtar all the way back defending near. Now, everybody has to defend. Like this is I have no issues with everybody defending, but it's kind of where they're defending that is kind of a good take on what's going on that's or what's missing. And if these guys are playing so far back, and Nashville's a team that historically has been good at hitting someone on a counter or finding space, if these guys are sitting so far back, they're not going to find the space going forward because they're too far back. And that is what you start to see is Hani's now at the top of the 18 trying to win a ball, or he gets it played to him, but he's got no one that he can outlet to because people are gone on international duty, but also the people who are back there aren't far enough up the field to do anything with it. And so it all kind of bleeds one thing into another. That being said, um, I will say this is a game without Walker Zimmerman, someone who has been good historically at kind of being dependable back there without needing a lot of help around him. He's going to be going for a while for the Olympics. And Bauer came in, and I really think that this has been that was one of I think we've seen a lot of growth from Bauer this season, and I don't really feel uncomfortable with him back there, which I don't know, even though I like rated him a little bit last year, I don't know that I would have been this comfortable this time last year with him back there. So I do think that there's something to be said for that. But you gotta want to see a little bit better from defensively, especially Shaq Moore. Shaq Moore had a couple of moments that he'd like back in that game too.
Yeah, I think for Shaq, he seemed I think when he left Nashville SC to join USMNT, he was playing in a different system in a different formation and a different style altogether. And he came back to maybe a new way of playing that he's not used to it. And he did seem a little bit like he seemed rusty. He didn't get any minutes in Copa America. He got a few minutes in the friendly, and that was that. But for Josh Bauer, I think he's way more of a center back than a right back. And I think at center back, he's flying cover to have and can start the occasional game. And maybe he can build upon that and do something better going forward. But I really think the experiment of Josh Bauer at right back or Alex Muyl at right back, I don't think that's sufficient anymore. I do think Nashville SC needs to go out there and get a right back. Before we switch into something completely different, I do want to say that Tyler Boyd is coming onto his own a little bit. Obviously, getting the goal. That's his second goal in 5 games. He only played like 12 minutes in the Portland game, so in 4 starts, he's gotten 2 goals now. He has 3 assists on the MLS season. So he's kind of building up to what Nashville paid for. Finally getting at the end of crosses, crossing himself, and we even saw him kind of lead the counterattack Saturday a couple times. So I think for him getting back into form will be important. I'm curious to see what it looks like once Schaffelberg comes back, and presumably Sam Surridge will go to the front, opening both. Having two clear wingers, I think is gonna be a different shape for Nashville SC. I think we're gonna see some changes to it. But good for Boyd. I think it's been a frustrating season for him to finally kind of get back into the swing of things is really good.
One last question, because I know we're wrapping up here, but I did see that I feel like I have to mention it. Randall Leal's back in training.
Yes.
And how many games do we think he's going to play the rest of the season?
So just to give
One.
folks a perspective, I asked Roma Muntali how close are we to seeing Randall Leal and Anibal Godoy back on the pitch, and Lucas McNaughton, to be fair. And he said Anibal Godoy and Randall Leal are closer, and very soon or soon was what I was told by him as far as when they'll be back on the pitch. I think Lucas McNaughton is still training alone a little bit, or getting back into the swing of things. But to answer your question, Clay, I think I don't know.
One.
Six. I'm gonna say six. Six before the end of the season.
All right, and I also do. I have
I
one
think
more
that's a good
question.
over under too.
I have one question as well, and this is something that I noticed, especially with the sub of Dan Lovitz coming in for Alex Mawil instead of Taylor Washington. Taylor Washington has yet to play a minute under Rumba Mentali.
He came on, right?
Yeah,
He
I'm
came
almost
on.
certain he played last week. I'm pretty sure.
We will check on that and tell you on the third segment. How about that?
If he came on last week, it had to have been last week because it hasn't been any other times. I'm very curious about that.
Yes, Stephen. If he came on last week, then it would have to be last week.
He
That
did
is a
not.
correct
Yeah,
statement.
He did not. He
he
did.
played played against Columbus.
Got it. Okay. Well, he's come on once and a lot of room at the time. But anywho, just my thoughts specifically.
He also played against New York City FC.
Not as
What
much.
was your question though? I'm curious.
I was just going to see how much time.
Oh,
I don't actually have a question now. I'm just trying to talk about stuff now. Shut up. Anyways, all right. Well, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about Copa and Euros, as well as some more Tennessee soccer news and disappointment that we get to talk about. We're going to do that next, right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. And we're back right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer at PharmaSoccer on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. As mentioned in the second segment, we also have a Patreon. We'd love you to be a part of that. Please check that out. We also can have a website, pharmasoccer.com. Check that out as well. Cool. Let's start off with Copa America and the Euro finals. I think that's probably the easiest thing to talk about. Thank you so much, Spain, for making sure Harry Kane still does not get a trophy. Always very nice to see. It was a good game, though. I think it was a fun match. Second half was way better than the first, but I think the team that deserved to win the tournament did win the tournament, which is always good to see. Spain was definitely the best team, out of those Euros that actually played the best. Yeah. Oh, what do you guys got?
I found it interesting. I mean, it is England has basically been just living by moments because they've played pretty bad for the most part, but they get, that crazy Bellingham bicycle goal to survive. They get the 91st minute winner in the semifinal to survive. And then they get a equalizer and I was joking because, obviously I'm watching England for one person alone. And Pickford makes like two pretty good saves, and then the middle of the field just falls completely asleep. And I was like, I've seen that one. I know how that works. So it was but the best team won and deserved team won. And my goodness, Spain is going to be really good for a lot of. I mean, they're always pretty good, but this group of players for Spain is going to be really good for quite a while.
and when you look since 2008, Spain has won 3 Euros and a World Cup. That's insane to me. That's a
You know what they
lot.
haven't won? You know what they didn't win? Confederations Cup. So
That's right.
shout out to Bob Bradley beating number one Spain, 2010, Josie Altidore, Clint
Yes.
Dempsey, 2-0.
Now
America.
they will never have a Confederation Cup because it's no longer a thing. So they can have
America ruined the Confederations Cup. You're welcome,
that.
world.
But yeah, for Spain, really exciting. Young players as well. Hoping some of them come to Arsenal. We'll see. That's where I stand on that.
Hoping they don't come to Arsenal.
None will come to Everton, so I don't have to worry about any of this.
No. You just wait until Arsenal signs one of these young players.
And
He
then they're
spends
not any
5 years at Arsenal, goes to loan at Nice, then we sell him to Everton for 35 million somehow. It's gonna be a good time.
good. I do want to talk about Copa America real quick.
Do you want to talk about the actual match of Copa America, Clay? I
Not
feel like that's
really.
what you want to talk about. Oh, no,
Uh,
that's not what you want to talk about. Got it. Okay. I'm,
well,
I'm, I'm weirded out by that. I thought that would be something you would want to talk about.
I mean, we'll see what happens with Messi. Obviously, that injury does not look particularly great. It's not a good sign when the best player in the world is crying openly on the sidelines.
I got a
Uh,
text from a friend who watches a little bit of MLS, but not a whole lot. Instead, Inter Miami is about to be relegated to the second division after this. So,
I mean, if you see what their crowds look like since he's not been there at home, it's crazy. But I do want to just talk about because a lot of people are using the issues that have happened at Copa America as an indictment on the US's ability to host major tournaments. And I think what you'll find if you talk to a lot of these site people that work on the ground is CONMEBOL has been the one saying yes and no to things. And so it's since come out the issues in Miami, which led to a bunch of unticketed people being in the stadium and all kinds of madness that led to the game being delayed and a lot of people who spent thousands of dollars on tickets not getting into the game. What you'll find is that they didn't use the 2026 World Cup plan, which has been set out for that stadium for ages. It was part of the bid. CONMEBOL wanted nothing to do with it. Now, that's not to say that the folks on the ground have no responsibility here. They obviously bear a good lot of responsibility, but a lot of people are saying America could have issues hosting the World Cup, and I just don't think that people understand that there are events with hundreds of thousands of people that happen every weekend, especially in the fall, at stadiums a lot less modern than Hard Rock Stadium, that have none of these issues. And I think when you start to realize that even the stadiums that have had these issues in Atlanta, Miami, and so on and so forth host Super Bowls all the time, host college football playoffs, host things like this. I just found it really annoying, especially from American commentators saying things like that, that it's kind of obvious that there's an issue here with CONMEBOL, who has a lot of these same issues at their other events that they've
Well,
hosted in the world.
yeah,
So
and I mean, you listen to Marcelo Bielsa literally go off. He wasn't saying anything specifically about the U.S. Like, he wasn't saying anything about the stadium specifically. He was talking about CONMEBOL and the way that CONMEBOL organized the event. He was talking about Bolivia's training pitches being crap just because it was Bolivia. He was talking about the grass on the field itself, saying, "Oh, it's going to be ready," and then it's not. It's they plan it 3 days beforehand. He didn't say anything that no, the U.S. can't handle this event. He was blaming CONMEBOL specifically and the organizers
well,
surrounding the tournament.
Copa America was here not that long ago. What, 2016? We hosted Copa America, and none of these issues really arose. So you have to wonder what's happened with CONMEBOL since then. But what I jokingly like tweeted this out while all this stuff was going on. I was like, hey, looks like there's going to be a delay. While there's this delay, how about you watch this Copa 90 special about the Copa Libertadores final in between Boca and River, a match that ended up getting played in Madrid because of all of the issues around the stadium in Buenos Aires. And so it's like these things happen, and I think it's unlikely that we're going to see this sort of thing in the World Cup compared to CONMEBOL.
And I'm the furthest person to praise CONCACAF or anything of the sort. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, the 2016 version, Copa America Centenario, was a combination of CONCACAF and CONMEBOL hosting that tournament, to where this one was CONCACAF was not as involved, as far as I understand it. And even from a U.S. standpoint, they didn't make as much money on tickets. U.S. soccer didn't make as much money on tickets. There was a report, I think, by ESPN done on that, because it's different, because Centenario, what happened in 2016, was a combined tournament, to where this one, just six CONCACAF teams were invited, but everything was run by CONMEBOL. I don't want to spend more time on this because I'm sure other shows will. I will say, on the pitch, I think Colombia is the better team, honestly, for this entire tournament. I think Colombia was the best team, but Argentina knows how to win, especially when Messi's involved, because they do it for Messi, and they have this thing about them. They have superstars, but when Messi's involved, it just becomes such a big event for that country and for those players, that you see them perform at a level that is way higher than we're used to even. But Argentina, kind of similar to Spain, two Copa Americas and a World Cup in the last few years, but in a little bit of an opposite way from Spain. I think their core players are about to retire or have retired already, to where
Di
Spain has a
Maria's
lot
last
to grow
tournament.
into.
Well, I mean, I agree with you, and I think I think for the 90 minutes, Colombia definitely played better for sure, but Argentina was able to bring like the the Serie A, goal scoring champion pretty much, off the bench for him to score the last goal,
The
especially in
Copa
this,
America Golden Boot winner, Lautaro
yeah,
Martinez, came off the bench in the extra time.
came
Yeah.
off the bench to score that
Yeah.
Came
goal.
off the bench whole tournament. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I mean, that's the one thing that Argentina was able to do, which is why they've won this tournament 3 times in a row. Um, also,
Twice, I think.
I will give one shout out to CONMEBOL for having Shakira at halftime. That was
Yes,
sweet. So
I
shout out.
enjoyed. I wish it wasn't at halftime. I wish she just performed before the match. It would have made more sense. But I was I was watching with my girlfriend, and I think that was her favorite part. So she did watch the whole game as well. But I think Shakira was really exciting for me
shout out
personally
to
too, because
PK.
the game was kind of like a snooze fest in the first half. You gotta admit,
Oh, it was
like
absolutely
it was
sweet.
so boring, and then Shakira comes in with all the energy, and I was like, yeah, this is so much better than the soccer I was watching. Right, like it's so
Clay,
much
did you just
better.
say shout out Gerard PK? Why?
No,
Because
Gerard
I
Piqué
feel like
fumbled.
No, no, I feel like that's the reason Shakira does all these big events is just to remind the world what PK did. Like, I think that that's part of it because I mean, she wasn't really around doing a lot of these US events until all this happened. Now she's done a Super Bowl, she's done this, she's all over the US, just reminding people the
Well, one of the
generational fumble by PK.
well, we've talked about him a little bit. We did see a Nashville product in the the third place game of Copa America, again getting the start, has kind of been the talk of the tournament, I would say, when it comes to specific individual player. He made the best 11 for Copa America, which is crazy with, over Messi specifically. On the wing. I mean, and that would be the one Jacob Schaffelberg, where it seems like there's a lot of conversation surrounding him as a player. It'll be exciting to have him back on the team. Clay, we kind of talked about it last week about Schaffelberg if he would be on the move on some sorts, but I do think the conversation has even increased just based on his performance.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's borderline likely that he's on the move even later this summer, honestly. You got to capitalize when the price is high, and I think the price will be as high as it might ever get for Nashville this summer. I will say this, and I said this back whenever the tournament was starting, is that Schaffenberg fits what Marsh wants to do with those guys. Like he wants a guy who's going to come in and run his socks off until he can't run anymore, and find a way, make plays, things like that. And that's what Schaffenberg does. And so he kind of fits like a glove, certainly more so than he did with Herdman, although he did all right with Canada prior. Uh, I I'm really excited for people to see him. Like I saw the ESPN write up, which I found was interesting, was like the guys to keep an eye on after the end of Copa America. He was on there and it's like he's shining away he hasn't for his club team. And I think that might be partially true. I think that in the ways that he hasn't shown is the ways that Nashville hasn't shown, but he's been one of the bright spots of NSC for the last 2 years. And I think you can tell because he's been in all the advertising, like for leading up to this season. His jersey is probably one of the most popular jerseys that they sell week in and week out at the store. He is a very popular, well-regarded player. And so it's just kind of a reminder that internationally, MLS guys may be a little bit underrated. And I think that seeing Schaffelberg kind of show out on this stage, they're going to get some offers for him in the next month or two. And I wouldn't be surprised if one of them gets taken.
But there is also another Nashville rumor that we haven't brought up on this show because it hasn't really been crazy visible. But Blair, do you want to give us a little bit more insight on getting some midfield help?
Yes, so Nashville SC has been linked with Yesbeck. I think it's how you say it, Patrick Yesbeck. He's an Australian, no, New Zealand, no, Australia.
I
Can't
think it's
remember.
Australia.
Australia, thank you. He's an Australian international, has played for the youth team for Australia and made his international debut. He'll be coming in from the Norwegian league. The reports are all coming from Europe. So nobody here in America has reported this, but he's already kind of said his goodbyes to the fans. He said his goodbye through social media as well. It's looking likely. The initial team was rumored to be Sporting Kansas City. However, his agent came out and said there were no talks with Sporting Kansas City. So Nashville is the only team that was mentioned. Yes.
Can I actually break it right here?
Yes.
I
Did
can
somebody
do it.
just say something about it?
It's on the Nashville SC website as players.
No way.
I just Googled, I just wanted to Google, I just literally wanted to Google it just to make sure he was Australian. And then I look at the net, this is nationalsc.com/players/Patrick Yesbeck.
Amazing.
I love everything
Has
that
Twitter gotten a hold of this?
I don't think so.
Let's keep that one out on.
I never get this though. I never get to,
Yeah.
this is fun for me. I love this. This works. I did it. I
You
broke
Googled
news.
his name and
Oh,
stumbled upon his page on the National SC website.
it's the first
Amazing.
result.
It's literally the first result. I broke news.
This is the funniest thing ever. Wait, what did you guys go? Oh,
Just
there it is.
Google, just Google Patrick Yazbek
Yes.
Nashville. It's the first result.
Wow. Well, he's born in 2002. If you guys didn't know that, I just learned from this
Blair, when
page.
you drop this on your Twitter here in the next 10 minutes, please give me credit for being the first one to look it
Oh,
up.
Just do it. You
I'm dropping it on Pharma right now, Patrick. I'm putting it. I'm going to
this
credit you in the. I'm going to credit you in the post.
this clip is gonna be great.
It's amazing.
Presumably, no one else has Googled his name in the last 30 minutes. I don't know. When did this happen?
Anyway,
Hold on,
yeah,
just a second.
he's 5'10". He was born in 2002, according to the Nashville SC website. Right-footed player.
So I guess he is coming to Nashville. I was gonna say it's a rumor that hasn't been reported anywhere here on this side of the ocean, but it's not a rumor. It's on the site, but not official yet, of course. So we'll see where that goes. He's a midfielder. He seems to be able to link up play, and he's on the younger side, which kind of makes sense. I'm trying to keep it together here. These guys are losing it. He's kind of on the younger side too, so it's helpful for it's something Mike Jacobs talked about, Nashville SC 2.0 under BJ Callahan, more focus on younger players, developing those. So this kind of adds up to that plan. And look, if there was one position we all said Nashville SC need helps in is midfield. So they're going out and getting that.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to Patrick Yazbek for
Shout
being.
out to Google and Steven Robinson as well.
Is he part of the? Is he technically part of the U? Would he be a part of the U22 initiative player? Valera's
Yes,
work.
I
Okay,
believe so. I believe he is one of so Nashville has two spots left on that. I believe he can occupy one of them if Nashville chooses to use him that way.
gotcha. Well, look at us doing stuff, doing things, and this is amazing. Clay, do you want to give your local soccer roundup now that this segment is going to be way longer than it normally is?
Honestly, I don't. No, just I gotta. You are the first one to get that out there, Stephen. By the way, I just looked on Twitter to see if anybody else did. So,
Yes.
so we were the first to Sam Surge, first to Patrick Yazbek, Pharma boys in the house.
I will tell you, one of those required a lot more work than the other.
I know, mine did. I know, Patrick Yazbek required way more work.
Hey, all I'm saying is it is profoundly on brand that Steven's discovery came from Googling Patrick Yazbek. Like, that's the level of investigative process that he can handle, and it's fine. It worked. He
Okay.
nailed it. Good job, Steven.
Yeah. Steven, I need you to clip this after this is done.
1000%.
So in other news, there's other soccer teams in Nashville. Unfortunately, seasons are ending. So I'm going to start off with the NPSL or the WPSL seasons have all wrapped up. So in the USL leagues, there's Tennessee Soccer Club playing in USL League Two, which is the men's league, and the USL Women's League, USLW. So first off, in USL League Two, TSC lost 2-1 away to Asheville City over the weekend. That, I believe, wraps up their season. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure that wraps up their season for good. And then in the USLW, you have the Tennessee Soccer Club coming so very nearly close to making some history. They go out in the semifinals, the national semifinals of the USLW Championship, losing 2-1 in double overtime well, I guess it's overtime anyway, and 2-1 in overtime to the North Carolina Courage team. They're the second women's team to make it to a national semifinal. The Nashville Rhythm, of course, did it in the WPSL in 2022. So really, really, really good season from TSC that I think a lot of people should, be pretty excited about. There's two really good women's soccer teams here in, the local area. There are some rumors out there about in WSL potentially being tied into Nashville, tied into MLS. And there's everlasting rumors about a women's professional sports in Nashville. And so seeing women's teams that are already here doing well is something that I'm very excited about, and maybe hopefully leads to something bigger down the line.
Beautiful. Thank you much for that roundup, Clay. Very much appreciated. Not even mentioning the fact that we have a very busy week of Nashville SC matches too. We do have a 2-match week before. I believe leagues. This is the last week before Leagues Cup. Is that correct? Am I right?
Yes, and then there's a 10-day break, I believe, before the first Leagues Cup game.
For All Star,
Um,
correct?
so yeah, Mazatlan at home will be the next game after these two. So Orlando at home, obviously Wednesday, Saturday they go to Philadelphia, and then 11-day break, actually not 10. Wednesday, July 31st will be the first Leagues Cup game against Mazatlan at home.
Sweet. I don't know what we want to talk about. I don't know. Let's just do predict. I don't even care. Let's just do predictions. Let's just do.
Orlando has been really good. Philadelphia has been really, really bad. Um, Orlando has been good in the last month or two. Overall, their season started pretty tough. For Philly, this is their worst season in probably 7 years or so. So, in true Nashville SC fashion, I'm gonna guess they're gonna beat Orlando 2-1 and then lose to Philadelphia 3-1. There you go. That's my prediction.
Play.
I'm going to say we're going to see a snapback game from Nashville SC on Wednesday. First off, you should check out Clay Lasso on Twitter, Instagram. You should check out Nashville Soccer Archive. Go check out Kicking at 615, give them money. Check out PH Steven HD on Twitter, where he is uncovering massive transfer news by accident. And after you do all that, you can settle in on Wednesday and watch Nashville win 3-1 over Orlando before going to Philly and losing 2-0.
2-0-0 draws in Nashville fashion before we get one BJ Callahan in town. It's going to be the most Nashville SC performance of the week. Guys, thank you again so much for listening to the show. We really appreciate it. I know we went over on this segment, but luckily it was a lot of fun. We'll be back next week to talk about these matches, of course. And if there's any more news, we'll break that here as well. Thank you guys so much for listening to the show. We appreciate it, and we will talk to you next week.